Hi everyone, it's almost April 25th and that's a very special day for Australians and New Zealanders all over the world because it's Anzac Day. Now you'll probably remember that Anzac is an acronym, which means that each letter of the word Anzac is the beginning of a word. I wonder if you remember what Anzac stands for. Yes, that's right, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Now, in countries all over the world, Australians and New Zealanders and many other nationalities commemorate Anzac Day. Why? Why do we do that? Why do we do it on April 25th every year? Why is Anzac Day so important to us? Well, many people say that Australia and New Zealand, as countries, were forged on the battlefields of Gallipoli. You see, the other soldiers in the Allied forces were conscripted. They had to come and fight, whereas the Anzacs volunteered. There's a big difference. They felt it was their duty to fight for Mother England. Plus, our country was still a very young nation. The Australian population in between 1914 to 1918 was only 4 million people. And 416,809 Australians enlisted for service in the First World War. That's almost 40% of the male population aged between 18 and 44. That is an awful lot of us. So this is where our country, men and women, made the world see who we were. Anzac came to stand for the positive qualities which Australians have at Gallipoli. And the legend formed when Australian and New Zealand soldiers displayed those special characteristics, forged against overwhelming odds in the furnace of war. These characteristics included endurance and courage, ingenuity, good humour, mateship, respect for the enemy, and a famously anti-authoritarian larrikin streak. It means that we're a bit cheeky, us Aussies. Now, World War I began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his family, and it lasted until 1918. During the conflict, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria and the Ottoman Empire, known as the Central Powers, fought against Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, Japan and the United States, the Allied powers. So thanks to new military technologies and the horrors of trench warfare, World War I saw unprecedented levels of killing and destruction. Now we've heard that word quite a bit lately, unprecedented, because with the Covid-19 virus, there is a lot of unprecedented things happening. Unprecedented means something we've never seen before. And World War I was like a war they'd never seen before. And by the time the war was over, and the Allied powers claimed victory, more than 16 million people, soldiers and civilians, were dead. The Anzacs were fighting for Britain and the Allied forces. They landed on Gallipoli to fight the Turks, who were part of the Ottoman Empire, which was the Central Powers. The Allied forces needed to control over a town called Constantinople, which we now know as Istanbul, because they controlled the passage through the Black Sea. And we needed access to the Black Sea so that the Allied navies could get through to fight Germany, Russia and the Central Powers. Now, when our troops landed, it wasn't a very good spot. There were lots of cliffs and the Turks were sitting up on the top shooting down at our guys. Many soldiers didn't make it. Many died in the water. The 8,000 that did make it started digging in and making trenches, and this would be their life for the next 8 months, if they survived. In November 1915, the decision was made to evacuate the Allied troops from Gallipoli. So that was 8 months later. And on the 20th of December 1915, a little over a month later, the Anzac troops were evacuated from Anzac and Suvla Bay. So the men who had survived Gallipoli would go on to celebrate Christmas in safety, but they would feel very sad for leaving behind their comrades, their friends, thousands of whom died on the battlefields at Gallipoli, and that would be their final resting place. which is why Gallipoli remains so special for us, because so many of our countrymen are there. Anzac Day commemoration began the year after the landing on the Gallipoli shores. A small ceremony was held in Albany, Western Australia, which is where a lot of the boats, the ships carrying our sailors, our airmen and our soldiers left from. They left from Albany. They also left from Townsville and Rockhampton. So there was a small ceremony in Albany and in Brisbane and Rockhampton in Queensland. And these were very sombre ceremonies. They were only very small. There were just a few people there who knew that their sons, mainly sons, had died already, because it was only a year later. And there was just a few prayers, some flowers thrown in the water, that kind of thing. There's not a lot of information about those ceremonies, but that's what I've read has happened. Today, we have lots of big parades. Every single town in Australia has a war memorial, because every town lost sons to the war. So now we not only remember and commemorate and thank the soldiers of the First World War, but the Second World War and all the wars and peacekeeping missions afterwards. We say thank you for sacrificing their time, their loved ones, and in some cases their limbs, for many their minds, which were damaged. And we're deeply thankful for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives. We thank them for keeping our beautiful Australia the free country we live in today. I hope you continue to watch after my little video and enjoy the stories that I've put on here for you. There are some songs and some beautiful music, and I apologise for the quality, as I had to video the YouTubes off YouTube. So it would be great if, as a family, you can make a wreath and maybe stand at 6 o'clock on Anzac Day morning in your driveway with a candle and your wreath, and listen to the last post on your radio. Many radio stations will play it. I'll be standing in my driveway, and we can pay our respects to our diggers, past and present, who put themselves in danger so we can be safe, lest we forget.